There you go. Right. So good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for this workshop on how to grow your influence online. The session will kindly be delivered by Gordon Glenister, who we work closely with to deliver the FEA Top 100 Food Service Industry Influencers. So you might recognise him from conference if you were there on the first evening last year. And you'll be pleased to know that we'll be announcing a new Top 100 FEA Food Service Industry Influencers at this year's conference, so for 2022. So if you're keen to move up the list or make headway into the top 10 potentially, this could be really insightful for you and really beneficial as well for your marketing needs. So I'll hand over to Gordon now. So thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, Adam, and lovely to see you all this morning. There's going to be loads and loads of content here, so yeah, you are going to get a copy of the session, but feel free to write any notes. What we will do is have a chance to have a little bit of a discussion afterwards. I'm going to speak for about 40 odd minutes or so. But I'm really keen to make sure that you understand things from your specific area. It's quite broad in the sense of what I'm talking about, but I have put a couple of slides that do relate directly to where you're at. But hopefully you'll enjoy it. As Adam has said, I thought I'd just give a quick snippet of who I am, because you might like to engage with me on other platforms. I host my own podcast, which is called Influence, now in its 4th season. So I interview lots of people from all around the world, whether they be influencers, agencies, brands, or entrepreneurs, all sorts of people. I'm also the author of Influencer Marketing Strategy, which is a book I published last year. I'm super excited to be publishing it in Portuguese in a month's time. So I'm going over to Brazil to promote it, which is very exciting. Brazil is actually the 4th largest influencer marketing industry country in the world, so it's a really exciting area. But I'm also a panelist and a host on many influencer marketing topics. And more recently, I'm Chief Strategy Officer for Audience to Media, which is a global influencer marketing agency, and we execute influencer marketing campaigns. But I'm also quite heavily involved in the association sector, which of course is where the FEA were involved. So I launched the Branded Content Marketing Association Influence Division. I also have the Membership World Community, which is CEOs of membership bodies. And I'm also co-founder of the Meetings and Support, the Event Support Association, as well as being the co-founder of the Most Influential People Index. Most people say to me, when do you sleep, Gordon? So not very much. But I can also help people with their own personal influence as well. So if that's anything that you're interested in, then do have a talk to me afterwards. Right, so I thought I'd just put up a number of people. Does anybody know, and you can come off mics, does anybody know who this person is here? No? Okay, right. Well, she is called Teza, and she has 1.7 million followers on Instagram. And the reason why I've put her up here is because when I was involved in the Branded Content Marketing Association, we did a survey to 250 content creators and influencers, and she came top of the list of the person that's most admired by influencers. So, and the reason why she's most admired is because of the quality of the content that she creates and the consistency of approach. So remember that it's not about the number of posts, it's about the quality of the content, high rich photos, video content, and a lot to do with backgrounds, right? So be thinking about when you're posting stuff. It's not just about, I mean, nowadays we want great lighting. Nowadays, the quality of content of some of these creators is so high. So think about that. If you don't look good, or you're wanting to appear in the right location, the lighting isn't right, don't post it. Yeah. How about this lady here? She has the most views on Facebook, actually, and her own YouTube channel has over 6 million. She's called Supercar Blondie. And one of the reasons I put her in there is because she creates amazing video content. She really it helps that she's in the world of supercars, of course. But what she does do is she really entertains her audiences, and she creates this sort of excitement and energy about the product. So that's something it's not just about telling a story anymore. It's about adding some enthusiasm. So when you're talking about equipment, is how can you make your content really stand out? It's not about just, oh, well, here's a new kitchen that we fitted. It's the food. It's having a conversation with the chef. It's bringing your products to life in a way that makes it really exciting. What about this guy here? Does anybody know who he is?
No, what's that doing?
No. So this is Gary V, right? He has got over 9 million followers. In fact, he has a whole social media team. And the reason why I put him up there is because he's super authentic. He says it how it is. He sometimes swears, but people almost love him for that. There's no bullshit with Gary V. And that, I think, is important. What people don't want nowadays is scripted, overcrafted content. And if you can't do that in a way that is really engaging, then don't do it and get somebody else to tell that story, or use animated content. Because what we want to connect is, you think about how you relate to other people online. What is it that makes you share a video or pause and stop? And you say, oh, that's really cute, isn't it? Oh, that's hilarious. Or that's really inspirational. Yeah. Think about the way that you engage with content, because if you engage with content, the chances are that when you start to deliver this, others will say the same. Now, none of you probably want to think of yourself as influencers in the same way that you would as social media influencers, but I would hope most of you would like to be seen as the go-to person in your niche. And that's half of what this is all about, is really making people come to you because you have a lot of knowledge, you are an interesting individual, and people want to connect with you. And the reason I showed you this chart is just to give you a snapshot of all the different types of individual influencers that exist. The B2B influencer, which largely all of you are at, is changing now. What used to be white paper interviews and exec panels are now changing much more to interactive ebooks that people can download. Podcasters with influencers and customers involved in that. Research report, but not just on its own, with opinion pieces and quotes from, in your case, maybe chefs or your target audience. So just imagine if you were creating a report on safety, but you got a number of your target audience involved in that. Now, not only does that add huge weight, but what it does do is it means that the likelihood of them sharing that to a wider audience is going to be even greater. I don't know if any of you do a future of the industry predictions. That's something that you should definitely be thinking about. And of course, influencer interviews. So you can see how things are changing much more away from brand and much more towards individuals. These things I talk about all of the time. Yeah, forget promotion. People don't want to hear our new website. Look, delighted to be launching our new website. Nobody cares. Yeah, most of your customers, the only thing that they really care about is themselves. So how can you enrich your audience? And you can do that by being educational, inspirational, or entertaining. And as long as you don't forget that, you will find that your level of engagement with your target audience will grow hugely. I thought you might like to see this, is why we follow people. And the number one thing there, no surprise, as I've just mentioned it, is to be educated, to learn something new. But you can also see there that we also like to be entertained. We need to be inspired. There's a lot of bad news at the moment, let's be honest. And what we want to hear about is somebody that's going to lift us, motivate us. So what can you do with your content that actually helps to inspire people away from what is, not necessarily great news at the moment? One shouldn't underestimate that a lot of people pass time. They scroll through their phones. You've only got to look around you, your family, friends, colleagues. We scroll. We're now in the attention economy. So it's not just to put content, even good content doesn't get captured because there's so much of it now. If you think about how much, there are billions of pieces of content that are being uploaded every single day to the net. So how does your content stand out? And I would say that the one thing that you've got to be thinking about is making sure that you understand what content stands out and delivers, without necessarily just looking at yours, is what is the type of content that people are loving generally in society. And then start to apply those things to your own content. So one of my big lessons for you right now is to, as I say, think about the attributes of your actions and the reasons to why, and perhaps even start to note them down in a little notebook or something. I mean, it may surprise you to know that cat and dog videos are one of the most viewed and shared videos ever. So I say to people, well, is there a way where you can involve a cat in a video? It's not so easy in a kitchen, of course, but maybe there's a way in which you can create content that works for you. So let's just deep dive into a little bit more of some of the qualities that influential people have. The most important thing that they have is a purpose and a vision. Yeah, we like to follow people that are very clear in what they stand for. Remember, a brand is what somebody says about you when you're not in the room, and that is all of you. You are all personal brands. So if I met you online, or I met you in person, and I wanted to go and tell somebody about you afterwards, I met Adam. He's a great guy. And one of the things I like about Adam is blah, blah, blah. So whatever those blah, blah, blah moments is, you need to create an environment where people, you are seeding it. Yeah. So my strap line is, helping you create the connections that count. Yeah. And that's what I say a lot of the time, because I want people to remember that I'm a connector of people. So think about that. I mean, for a bit of a joke, what I often do when I'm speaking to people, I change their name on Zoom to 3 letters, and it always creates a lot of fun and entertainment. But what I'm doing is actually saying something very relevant. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about somebody in particular that I've done that with as a client. So yes, purpose, for example, Greta Thunberg, considering everybody know what she stands for, she has really driven change. Whether you like her or not, she has been a very impactful, influential person. Another thing that influential people do is they listen to their audience. They don't keep churning out the same stuff. They optimize their content all of the time. They also know their numbers. They have a complete, particularly with something like Instagram, and if you've got the business account on Instagram, you can find out all sorts of stuff. But as somebody involved in the influencer marketing industry, there is a huge amount of data that we have on individuals. In fact, our own platform has 106 million people on it. And some of the data insights is absolutely phenomenal, not just on the individual influencer or person, but also, more importantly, their follower base. So, for example, in this particular instance, we can find out that this person has got 31% of their audience in the UK, 26% in the United States. So if this was a uniquely British brand, rather than actually them have all of that 600,000 followers, or however many they've got in total, what this is saying is that I'm actually my available audience is only 31%, because the rest of it are irrelevant to me. What we can also see is the split of age demographics and gender split as well. Again, that's very important depending on the people that are buying your products and stuff. Also, the authenticity of the follower base. So what you do not want to do under any circumstances is be seen to be buying followers just to augment your social following. That's a really, really bad practice. And quite frankly, I see it as almost fraud, really. So unfortunately, there are people that do that, and it's not a good way to grow your audience. You want the right type of people. And don't try and think to yourself, I want just followers for the sake of it. It's about, I mean, I would say that because of the nature of what all of you do, it's quite niche, and that means you don't have to have tens of thousands of followers, but actually making sure that you've got the right type of people that are going to be, and whether they be chefs or whether they be wholesalers or whatever, retailers, whatever. Create amazing relatable content. So you can get some filters now that really add so much more. Think of your Instagram, Facebook, or your LinkedIn, and by the way, they need to be consistent. So your banner ad needs to be the same across all, with that sort of strap line, what you stand for. But this is an example of a content creator, actually a mummy blogger, but I love the filter that she's put on there. It's really, really good, isn't it? And that's one of the reasons why she's got loads of brand partnerships with big brands like Disney, Center Parks, and all of that. Definitely be authentic. As a friend of mine here, I love her strapline. It's super clear. Find your purpose, tell your story, and grow your presence. That's one of the reasons why she's working with some major brands. Very interesting individual is Alex. What we've also seen now is influential people are now, they own brands. Yeah. So, you know, here's some example of people in the fashion industry, where designers have thought, well, goodness, actually, it's far better for us to reach out to influencers. And you can see some of the success of these individuals here. So is there a way where you can co-create content with influencers? So one of the benefits that you get with building your own online influence is you get this credibility by association. Yeah. So one of the reasons I've done reports, I have done podcasts, is because I will grow my influence by associating with other highly influential people. I hope that makes sense. So what do influential people generally provide? Well, they provide trust. We trust the opinions of others more than we do traditional advertising. In fact, amongst millennials and Gen Zs, it's just a staggering 1%. So they won't be, if you're trying to advertise to a person under the age of 25, they just don't want to be sold to. They want to find out from other people. They want to see who's reviewing products and services. Look what we do when we go and buy, consider a restaurant. We look at reviews now. We look at people that have been there before us and have told us those things. Influential people have expertise, particularly those that have got niche audiences as well. And by the way, when we talk about influencers, it's not just about, you know, fashion influencers. You know, I've seen some great plumbers that are influencers. They wouldn't call themselves that, but they are absolute experts in their field. And some of the video content they create is all about what happens when your boiler goes wrong, and almost creating little bite-sized pieces of content. So that's really interesting. Influential people have followers, because the level of content that they're creating is such that people want to follow them. They have good engagement, and good engagement means that they are responsive to their audience. The most important thing to an influencer or an influential person is their engagement, and that basically means they're responding to likes and comments. It's not just you're just pumping out stuff and saying this is what I've done, this is, yeah, the look at me stuff is waning, quite frankly. It needs to be totally relevant and on point. So for example, I've put a post out this morning on LinkedIn. You might like to have a look at it. It's very relevant because actually, surprisingly, this morning, this presentation might not have gone ahead because I had a malfunction on PowerPoint, and I phoned my IT guy, and he sorted it out in the space of minutes. But he's been there through, thick and thin. So I put a thank you post out this morning, not just to him, but I then started to think about, well, who else generally would like to thank people that have been there for them? And already, it's created quite a lot of engagement on that post because it's an emotional story as well, I guess. They can give you share of voice. They're authentic storytellers. Often, if you think about, what do we like now? When we look at Netflix, we love the build-up, we love the excitement of some of these series. And how many of you are binge watching? We're not just watching films anymore, we're episodal content. So is there a way where you can create a whole series of stories about fitting and installing kitchens or other types of equipment, the journey of the process, how it's made? People love behind the scenes stuff. Evergreen content as well. If you think about Charlie Bit My Finger as a YouTube video, I mean, the views on that still are continuing to go up in the multi-millions. And that was like 2013 or something. If you're working with an influencer campaign, it can be very, very cost effective as well. And influential people are totally relevant to their audience. Right, we're going to talk a little bit about creating an influencer strategy here. So one thing I think you need to be thinking about, as I've slightly mentioned already, is having a personal brand identity. And that needs to be something succinct. And I don't know what that is for any of you, and perhaps we'll talk about that when we finish in 20 minutes or so. But have a think about that now. And definitely you want to be writing articles and research projects. The example that you see on the right there is the Social CEO Index report. We analysed over 100 Twitter and LinkedIn profiles of chief execs of trade associations. And of course, can you imagine each of the people that were shown in that? We were then able to send that to all those 100 people. And because they are involved in the report, the likelihood of them sharing it or talking about it and actually is an amazing lead magnet was phenomenal. We had hundreds of people downloading that. And one of my partners, Synergy, did all the printing and the design for me. So that's the other thing you can do, is you can co-partner with other people. Maybe there's some of you, even within this group today, that could actually do something joint that was relevant, and even with the FEA together. Daily posting creates consistency. So that's the other thing you need to be thinking about, is don't overwhelm yourself. You could even create all of your posts in 1 month by using a scheduling tool. But what you need to be doing is making sure that you're doing the posts at the same time every day. Now, it depends on the different channels. Typically, LinkedIn is early morning between 7:30, 8 o'clock and 9:30. That's a very popular time, as is at the end of the afternoon. When it comes to Instagram, it's early evening, and so is it on Facebook. So have a look at that and be consistent with that. Certainly you want to be building awareness and advocacy. One of the things you can do is create a little pod, which is create your own circle of influence. Could be like half a dozen people that have already got your back. And so when you do a post on LinkedIn, they will like and comment on it, and you will do the same. Need not be more than 6 people, but bearing in mind the way the algorithms work, the first hour is the golden hour. So if you've got like 3,000 followers on LinkedIn, your post is only going to be shown to about 5% of those 3,000 people. Yeah, a very small percentage. And as long as those people like and comment it, then the algorithm will push it further. And if more people comment and like, it'll push it further and further. And that's how viral campaigns happen, when people do that very, very quickly and en masse, because the algorithm is thinking, oh, this is nice, juicy content. We're going to share, we're going to really push this out quickly. Definitely you want to be trying to attend panels, speaking at events, ideally within your own target audience, and join industry body groups. Well, you've joined the association, but are there special interest groups? Are there particularly special projects that you could align yourself with the FEA? Maybe there's some other initiatives that you could look forward to. You can also connect with people like Analytica and Thinkers 360, and those are thought leader platforms. And I'm a member of both of those two, and speaker bureaus would reach out to people like that, and I've appeared in a few indexes as a result of it. So you know, have a look at it, and if it's of interest to you, then do check it out, particularly Thinkers 360. I just want to share with you an example of a post I did in March last year. Now, it was a very important post because it was the launch of my book, and can you imagine this book on influencer marketing strategy? If I'd have got literally 2 comments and 10 views, I wouldn't have been seen to be very influential. So I had to throw everything at the kitchen sink. So I wanted to just share with you a few ideas when you're doing a LinkedIn post. Personal stories resonate a lot more, for sure. Anything that involves people, photos and videos definitely create an emotional response. Make sure that you respond to all the comments and like them as well, with ideally more than 6 words. And remember, when you're saying anything on a comment, it's not just the person whose post this is, but all the other people that are looking and watching it. So be very mindful of that, because that will show your authority as well. You can see there, I tagged a number of people. That's quite a lot of people to tag. I wouldn't ordinarily suggest so many, but that's only because these people were contributors in my book. And what I wanted them to do is to make sure that by tagging them, they were going to comment. I've already mentioned a small pod of supporters. So another thing as well is, don't just share posts without any perspective or commentary. So for example, if you see something from the BBC and you think, oh, this is nice, this is interesting, I'm just going to share this. Don't do that, because if you share an outbound link, then you're not going to get nowhere near as much traffic as though it was an organic post. So what I'm thinking of here is, you might say, interesting article about food waste in the BBC. Here's my perspective on that. That creates so much more weight to your conversation. Now, super exciting to show you this if you've not already done it. Create your own personal URL. So can you see at the top there, it actually says, you know, Gordon Glenister Influencer Marketing dash membership. So I've just done that, and it'll allow, when you go into edit your profile, you'll be able to see how you do that. What that means is that whenever I comment in a post on anybody else's, it's a reminder of what I do. And so I'm effectively seeding Gordon's the influencer and membership guy. Gordon's the influencer and membership guy. And you would do the same within your own sectors. Yeah, so sorry, I want to just go back, and the result, of course, was that that post generated 16,000 views and 141 comments. So I guess we did what we wanted to do. Think about creating some blogs. So if you've not already got this on your own company website, perhaps even consider writing a blog on behalf of your customers. You might like to think about a number of different I've put some blog ideas for you here, but think about the blog content that your target audience are going to want to think about. Another little tip is that you don't even have to write it yourself. You can subcontract out on Fiverr, on others. There's amazing people out there around the world that will write SEO friendly, super engaging content that won't cost you very much. In fact, even I don't write my blog on my website. I give the steer to my writer who's overseas, and she does an amazing job. She writes the SEO. I've given her the steer what to do, which means that I've saved that time, but I've still got a really valued product at the end of it. One thing that I suggest you do is create a plan, and that is a social media plan of what you're going to do. And don't just do stuff sporadically, because you're never going to really grow your online influence unless you do things to a plan. Here's a few ideas of which you can use video for. So, how-to videos are still by far the most successful. Things like Q&A, you might like to think about having, once a month or something. Anything involving live Facebook or Instagram, maybe it's a cook-off or something like that, that could work. You can create customer spotlights where you're raising the attention of your customers and really making them feel good, because actually, again, by doing that, you're giving recognition, you're giving support to them, and there's a great likelihood that they'll want to reciprocate. Before and after, before and after an installation could be really good. Unboxing videos generally are very, very popular. You're creating an excitement. You might like to, when you've done something like a new install, you might like to give somebody like an amazing hamper or something like that as part of the final presentation, and ask that as part of that they just film it for them. So pleased that XYZ has delivered us this amazing kitchen, and then they're unboxing our little treat. Yeah, it's like an estate agent might send somebody a bouquet of flowers on the day they move in. Definitely think about planning your tweets or your posts over the course of the month. Now, I've just shared with you some ideas that you could do just to make it easier. So you can see there the frequently answered questions on the first day of the month. The second Monday of the month, we do Motivational Monday. In other words, it's some inspirational tips. Another day, we might do Wednesday Wisdom, which is an educational piece. We might do a Twitter poll on the third Monday. Here are just some ideas to consider. And you might like to create some fun as well. Remember what I said at the beginning about type of content that's entertaining as well. So, you could make this really quite relevant. As I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about it. What are the most things anybody has ever had in a fridge? You could have a real facts and figures that would make really engaging and interesting content. So yeah, there's some little ideas there as well. As I said, those are just a few ideas of if you wanted to engage influencers, and although we're talking largely about you becoming that sort of go-to person, these are some of the things that you might like to work with influencers on. I mentioned white paper, guest blogging. You can actually hire an influencer to take over your social media account. And of course, nowadays, because it's online, they could be anywhere in the world. I actually have somebody from the Philippines managing my Instagram for me. And although she knows the direction of which I want to take it, she's doing all the hard graft and putting the content together, and she does a great job. Definitely putting content on TikTok. That's got one of the highest views now, if you're not already on here. And by the way, I'm not suggesting you feel out of your comfort zone. I can imagine some of you are thinking, oh my God, TikTok's not for me. It can be for everybody. It's just finding where you feel comfortable with. Doesn't mean to say you have to do dance moves or do anything silly. TikTok has got a wider audience now. It's about just telling a story and making it entertaining and interesting. That's what it's all about. You can definitely have some competitions and challenges. They create lots of engagement. New product launches or podcast collaborations, all that sort of stuff. Definitely watch trends, because these are things that you can jump on. So maybe there's National Food Week, or there's things that are highly relevant at the time that you could really maximize your content. Timing is everything. Also, you can be seen as the influential person within your organization, but why not rope in some of your other colleagues? And I was just talking about this on an earlier call this morning. If I see somebody in a business saying, we're hiring, we're growing our business, and it's not from the HR person or the CEO, it's from a regular salesperson, and they've put that on their personal feed, that speaks volumes about the motivation of the company. In fact, I did a podcast recently with IBM, and they actually have a really amazing advocacy program within their business. Now, their influence or employee advocacies, they call them IBMers. And it's only about 20% of their total workforce. But you imagine the size of IBM, that's a sizable group of people that are sharing content, because they're some of their people, many of the people are seen as industry experts. It is being consumed to a higher degree of relevance because it's come from an expert within the company rather than just the corporate branded team. What do B2B influencers, where do they create their partnerships? And I just thought you'd be interested to see what type of thing that they do. A lot of them tend to prefer to speak at events or on panels. And you can see here what some of the others do. Some other things that you can do as well here is recruit your competitors' followers. So have a look, this is what I'd like you to do, is have a look at 10 exemplars stroke competitors within your niche. And you can do this on an Excel spreadsheet really, really easily. And then have a look at the last 10 posts that they have done. So you've got a 10 by 10 grid. And then have a look at, so for example, let's just take competitor number one. You might see post 1, 4, 8, and 9 have got really good engagement. Why is that? Well, because post 1 has got a video about something quite interesting. Post 3 has got this, and so on. So if you do that, and you can do that with 10 companies, with 10 posts, you're going to get a huge amount of insights. And what that will do is help you create what will then be the ultimate content strategy. And the reason I say that is because you need to understand before you start to promote yourself is what your competitors are doing and their audience and how they're reacting. So yeah, that was the first thing I was going to say. Also, follow all of your customers on LinkedIn, on Instagram, or wherever they may well be, and ideally some of your prospects, because remember, if you're adding comments and you're recognizing your customers online, they're going to think very highly of you, and you can then start to build that relationship in an online space. What you can do, particularly if they're not, I'm talking about prospects now, is then you can direct message them after a while. People don't want to be sold to on the first outreach. They want to try and understand a little bit about you. How are you? It's not an easy world we live in, blah, blah, blah. You need to find some element of reference point. Be very aware of the target keywords. I mean, this, for example, we were running a campaign for a rum brand recently, and we wanted to see who was using the hashtag rum, and that's a very good way of finding people. So using appropriate hashtags is very important as well. So yeah, I mean, this is really about following your ideal clients particularly on Instagram, which is really what I've just said. You can write features in industry magazines or columns. There's lots of magazines out there now that are really hungry for content. So don't ever send a press release. Most of the time, journalists ignore press releases, particularly if they're an attachment. Find out what the angle of the magazine is trying to do, what's going to be innovative and different. Remember, think of yourself as a journalist wanting content on this industry. What is the types of things that they would want to be reporting on? And then effectively match your content around that, or pitch your content around that. Now, here's the guy I want to tell you about. So this is one of my clients, right? And do by all means go and have a look at Jeff Beecham on LinkedIn. He is an individual that was a recruiter, just, you know, really regular guy. And I said to him, there's so many of you, there's so many recruiters out there. But he did say to me that he did quite a bit of work in the manufacturing space. So when I was on the Zoom, because of what I was hearing, I just changed his Zoom name to the manufacturer's recruiter right in front of him. And he really loved it, but he's loved it to a degree where he's changed everything about his brand identity. He's even got t-shirts, he's had branding, he's actually had some wallpaper as a Zoom background done with a manufacturer's recruiter. So what's really, really good is he's not just embodied that branding, but what he's also now done is he's been seen to be supporting UK manufacturing everywhere. And he's got some of the most amazing engagement on LinkedIn. He recently started a podcast with my help. And the first guest he has was Terry Schooler, who's the chairman of the Institute of Export. So you can see straight away how successful that has been. So again, just take that away with you and think about how can I apply that to my own business. Yeah, write engaging content. Remember, write content about what people are searching for, not what you think. So you can use all sorts of keyword search tools that are on the market there. There are loads, but this will make a big difference to how you're being found and reached. Obviously, I'm going to say write a book, although it was a nightmare to do and it took me way, way longer. So this doesn't have to be, you know, a book, a big, you know, 88,000 page book, but could you create a mini guide, which is, I don't know, 100 pages, an ebook, something like that? Could you partner with a chef, for example? These are the sorts of things that you could do. Could you create a Facebook community or a membership where your customers are all together? So I am the founder of Membership World, and I'm seen as a sort of industry influencer within the membership space because I've done that. Definitely always enter awards wherever you possibly can, but go further. Could you be an award judge? That will add huge amounts of influence and integrity to who and what you are. You could also create your own podcast, or you could appear on other people's podcasts. Remember, what is it you're trying to do? How are you going to add value to that show? Have a little think about hashtags as well. So there's a number of different types of hashtags that you can do. Search for the right ones, but you can have a product or service hashtag. You could have a niche one, special event one, a location one, a daily hashtag, and a sort of a relevant one as well. So there's a number of different ways in which you can, and these are important about people finding you, discoverability. Oh, sorry, I've already done that, haven't I? One thing I did want to mention was the social selling index. So go and have a look at this. This is really interesting. And you can Google this, so I can put this in the chat afterwards. This really just talks about how active you are in terms of your social selling. And I've got a reasonably good score there at 79. That can go up and down, but what it's measuring is how effective you are and how much of your audience are connecting and engaging with you. Never forget the importance of measuring what you do. So don't just do stuff for the sake of it. If you're really serious about growing your influence online, look at the number of comments, the likes, the shares, the followers, impressions, the downloads, you know, because what gets measured gets managed. So, and here are a few easy wins for you. Definitely follow some chefs, create some video content on customer installs. Remember to talk about what matters to chefs or your specific customer base, and find a way of bringing equipment to life with people and food. There we go. I hope that was interesting to you and I didn't sort of overwhelm you all. And happy to take any questions from you. And yeah.
Thank you, Gordon. If anybody has any questions, obviously you can put them in the chat or unmute yourselves, and we'll be happy to answer those.
I'd love to know more about all of you guys, what you do. And in fact, what I was going to suggest, Adam, is I'm going to create a post on LinkedIn in the next minute. Yeah. And what I'm going to suggest, I want to prove something to you about the importance of how you can really get your views up. But it's really important that every single one of you really do this afterwards. Yeah. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to upload a post and it's about this session. So I really need, with your permission, for you to go over to my LinkedIn and just write a comment underneath the post. And if you do that right now, you can see the impact of what we're trying to say and just apply that to your own organization. So I'm just going to and I'll put my LinkedIn. Right, I have just put the post now live there, and I'm going to just put my link in the chat. Right, okie dokie. So can I ask you as a favor to go and write a comment on my LinkedIn, and let's just see what happens. I hope it will work. But what I should do is actually go and get the actual specific content, the actual post. Right, wait a second. Has everybody found the post?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, so you need to like and comment, yeah?
The only thing is you put a comment in there about one of our competitors. I'm hardly going to like that.
I've put one of your competitors.
Yes, I've got you come up as a Untitled. That's the first one I've just got come up.
This is the one. This is the one that's got about the session today.
Oh no, okay, that's not come through.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to see it. Me trying to
It's
work
the
it
second
out.
one. If you can look at the second one, which should be a slide of one of the things today. Can you see?
It's got the speakerphone on it.
It's got the speakerphone on it. That's the one. Yeah. All been able to do that? Mind you, they could also say, oh, this is awful. This is rubbish, Gordon. Hopefully you found it interesting anyway.
I think the thing I find hardest is trying to find, like you say about posting every day, which I know the consistency, but sometimes it's really hard to kind of think, am I just boring the arses of these people? Like, so, is it actually relevant and interesting? And am I just posting for the sake of posting?
Yeah, you might be absolutely boring the pants off people. And the most important thing of all, Kat, is to only do stuff that you know works. So what did I say about a few minutes ago? I said, go and have a look at 10 of your competitors and exemplars and look at the type of content and then only do what works.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's better. If you can't do it every day, do two a week that works.
Because it's me basically creating everything.
Right, okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, I've kind of looked at our competitors, and sometimes it's like really hard because I look at it and I think, oh my God, it is dull as dishwater.
Then okay, and it might well be. So what you need to find out is what isn't dull and dishwater. Seriously, because at the end of the day, if you would I like and comment on that type of content? Because if I wouldn't, then why do it?
Yeah.
The only thing that matters, Kat, is what works. Not just I'll bung a tweet out because we're doing this. You know, remember, you know, if I was on the other end, you know, think of a follower as a friend. Think of somebody that is commenting as the most amazing person. If somebody has taken the time to do that, then they're interested in you. Yeah. It's hard, and that's why I'm taking the time to share with you that, you know, crap content just doesn't cut it.
No.
But you can bring products to life through video. You can do so many exciting things, and I think that will be great for this sector. I really, really do. In fact, I'm sure Adam and we were talking about this on an earlier meeting. It's like when you've done an install, you know, put some great food there and, you know, make it exciting and have a little chat with the chef, and so that, you know, and it's not like, oh, let's sit down, let's have a 20-minute chat. It's like 30 seconds, or it's a little testimonial. And are there some fridge freezers that have got the greatest technology in? Because amongst your audience, so think about the supercar Blondie video that I said that talked about at the beginning. You know, there's going to be something like, there's a wicked fridge freezer out there that somebody does. There's going to be some really cool, you know, stuff that you guys do. Find those really cool, exciting bits, because for your target audience, that's great.
Yeah, it's just so much to think about. It's like,
what does everybody else think? I mean, I can't see everybody's faces actually. What does everybody else think?
I agree with Kat to a degree. I think what's hard is to keep it consistent, but keep it authentic. You want to really know that what you're posting is something you want to be sharing and talking about, as well as being relevant to your audience. But it's like when you're saying about some of the motivational Mondays and putting it into a social media planner, trying to find the right kind of then message that will match some of that and be able to, you know, you can map out a couple of months. That for me is really important. I'm going on maternity leave towards the end of the year. I've got to map out the rest of the year for someone else to then implement. And I'm trying to think, how do you do that while kind of staying authentic to us and what we want to say and what we want to talk about as well, in terms of, you know, if it's about charity or uplifting content, it's getting the tone of it right, I think, without coming across preachy or for the sake of it. Like,
here's something else you could do, is actually speak to one or two of your customers and get them to give you a perspective on on the type of content that they like generally. Who do they follow and why? Do you imagine how important that is to you? And then ask them to rate your Instagram, rate your LinkedIn, and say, actually guys, let me just give you some hard, you know, I'm just following you, Sarah, because I like you. I'm not really bothered about the company. And if that's the case, then fine, you know, make the account. You know, this is what I was talking about, employee advocacy. You've got a number of foot soldiers within your own organization that you can link with and create a real campaign message about your brand during National Food Week or something. Get people excited, get people energized.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would just like to make a comment, really, than have a question. And I'm far from a social media guru, and I do the best. And this has been very insightful, so thank you for that. But just to share something with you during lockdown, that obviously there wasn't a huge amount going on, and obviously to keep my personal brand out there, I chose to share perhaps a little bit more about me personally than I would in any normal situation. And certain things that I did during lockdown, and one of them was grow my hair, would you believe? And I looked completely different to but actually I introduced that to my social media account. I introduced that, and it was one of the most sort of influential posts I had, and it brought lots of people together. So really I want to share with you guys that, and again, this is not from a marketing steer, but actually I brought a bit of my personal life into my business life, and actually it's formed relationships with people I've never met. And after lockdown, when I was going to associations and people were saying, oh, you've got your hair cut now, I saw that picture, I almost had an instant relationship through those social media posts. So I just want to share that that's how it influenced people, and that's how it worked, and actually it really, really surprised me.
Well, and great share, Simon, I have to say, because people want to hear from you, Simon. They want to hear what, it's about building relationships in a way that perhaps is, for some of us that of more mature years, it's different. We're so used to making those relationships face to face or at an event. And when that was taken away from us, there are some people that struggled with that. So, and vice versa, of course, some of these younger influencers that are great in front of camera, great content, suddenly struggle in the real life world. So I think it's about, you've got to do what you feel comfortable with. And I know for some people that feel that they're exposing more, but I can assure you that people that have talked about their struggles, their challenges, or they've done something for a charity, they've helped somebody else, those are the ones that get the highest level of engagement, because they're inspiring, they're educating, they're entertaining, all those three things. What we don't want to hear about is abject promotion all the time. I just see it people just doesn't resonate.
You'd be pleased to say I've put my camera on. I've had my hair cut now. So sorry, I didn't realise my camera was off.
Good, Simon.
You say all the right things.
See, one of the things, obviously, Simon, you put that on a post. Was that on LinkedIn? Because I always have this battle in my head, and it's probably mostly in my head, about what I post on LinkedIn versus what I would post. So you see all of this, LinkedIn is not Facebook, and it's like, well, it kind of is, but a professional Facebook. And it's hard sometimes to know, is that crossing the line of, I'm not going to put a picture of me drunk on a Saturday night on there, but it's kind of knowing where that line is, isn't it?
It's a really good point, and I have a personal opinion, and I always, this is just how I think. For me, LinkedIn is the professional audience. For me, that's all about business. I'm disappointed in some respects that I think LinkedIn is sort of heading towards the Twitter type of platform, and for me it's not the platform for that. Again, this is just my opinion. So for me, LinkedIn is all about absolute business, period. And I very rarely drop anything. Someone said to me about being the unprofessional professional, and I like that, because actually it's remaining professional but actually letting your guard down a little bit. So I think using the right words in some of your posts on LinkedIn, you need to think about that. Twitter is still, for me, and again, I'm coming from I have a personal Twitter and I have a personal Instagram, which I do not link the two. Of course, you could find me on both, but I don't mix the two together. But Twitter for me is a bit more relaxed, and I did that on Twitter during COVID, as I say, to let my personal guard down. And I think for me, it seems to be a little bit more acceptable that you can introduce, not the Hobart Simon Gardner, but actually the personal. What is he doing? Is it, what is his family? Does he have family? I bought one of these green eggs and started cooking in the summer and doing smoking and things, because it was linked to the industry. Again, that gave me, a bigger presence. And this was at a time when everybody was doing nothing but twiddling their thumbs. I wasn't doing that, I might add. So yeah, for me, LinkedIn's a professional one. Twitter is the one where I think I can let more people into my personal life. Instagram, I'm not really got to grips with. I have an account, but I'm not really I don't really see where that sits. That is completely just my personal opinion, how I divide the two.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Good. Adam, I think we're at time up, aren't we?
We are, yeah, dot on 12:30. Yeah, so thank you, Gordon. That was really good, and thank you all for attending. We have recorded this, so we'll be uploading it to our YouTube channel following this. But that was really insightful. And obviously, if you've got any questions that you want to pass through me to Gordon or contact Gordon directly, you've got his LinkedIn profile now, true to form. So,
I know you're recording this, I probably wouldn't have said certain words, but post anyway.
yeah. Okay. So